System shift is not a sci-fi headline anymore. It is the moment AI stops assisting office workers and starts replacing the logic of white-collar work itself. And if that happens faster than companies, schools, and governments can adapt, the first thing to break will not be the machines. It will be the economic system built around human office jobs. This is not about the end of work in some abstract philosophical sense. This is about a very specific chain reaction: which jobs disappear first, how hiring changes, what happens to salaries, who keeps power, and which countries gain an edge when productivity becomes cheaper, faster, and far less human. The real question is simple and uncomfortable: who wins when work itself gets rewritten? Stay with this, because the first job losses are not where most people expect them. The most important shift happens before the public even notices it. The first jobs AI absorbs are usually the ones people think are safest because they look professional. But routine office work is easier to automate than physical labor because it already lives inside emails, spreadsheets, documents, and repeatable workflows. That is why the early pressure lands on customer support, basic legal drafting, reporting, accounting prep, scheduling, internal operations, and junior research tasks. These roles are not disappearing because they are worthless. They are disappearing because they are measurable. And once a task can be measured clearly, it can usually be broken into pieces, delegated to software, and done by fewer humans. The first real shock is not a dramatic mass firing. It is the quiet freeze. Companies hire fewer juniors, teams get smaller, one manager supervises what used to require 3 people. The job title stays, but the headcount shrinks. That is why so many workers will feel the pressure before they can even describe it. The office does not collapse all at once. It compresses. A business that once needed 10 people to produce a certain output may discover it can do the same work with 6, then 4, then a mix of humans and AI tools that never get tired, never ask for promotion, and never need onboarding. The companies that adopt AI early gain a brutal cost advantage. They can move faster, respond faster, and undercut slower competitors without looking inefficient. In the short term, investors may reward that behavior because the numbers improve quickly. Fewer salaries, lower overhead, higher margins, but there is a hidden price. When every firm tries to become leaner at the same time, the labor market stops acting like a ladder and starts acting like a trapdoor. If there are fewer junior roles, there are fewer entry points. If there are fewer entry points, the next generation cannot climb into the middle. If this is already making you think about your own job, that is exactly why this video matters. These shifts usually start in spreadsheets long before they reach the headlines. The deeper corporate change is in management itself. AI does not just replace tasks, it changes coordination. A lot of middle management exists because companies need humans to pass information, track performance, write summaries, assign work, and keep different teams aligned. Once software can do much of that coordination in real time, the traditional management layer gets squeezed. Some companies will use AI to make decisions faster. Others will use it to reduce the number of people between the executive team and the actual output. That creates a strange reversal. In the old model, bigger companies often meant more layers, more meetings, and more internal friction. In the AI model, the most competitive firms may become smaller, sharper, and far more centralized. And that changes the meaning of efficiency. A company can become more productive while employing fewer people, but the social cost does not vanish. It just moves somewhere else. It moves into lower wage growth, weaker entry-level training, and a labor market where everyone competes for a smaller number of human-only tasks. Now take that same logic and scale it up to countries. Not all economies will experience AI the same way. The United States has a major advantage because it already sits close to the core of cloud infrastructure, software platforms, and capital markets. China has scale, industrial coordination, and a strong state capacity to push adoption in strategic sectors. Europe has talent and institutions, but it also faces a difficult balance between regulation, labor protection, and speed of deployment. And Latin America faces a different problem entirely. If many office tasks can be automated from abroad, local firms may import the productivity gains without creating enough new domestic jobs to replace the old ones. That means the benefits can travel faster than the wages. In other words, the countries that own the platforms, the chips, the cloud, and the model infrastructure can capture more of the value than the countries that only consume the tools. This is where AI stops being a productivity story and becomes a power story. And that is why this is not just a tech trend, it is a competition over leverage. The viewers who understand that early will understand the next decade more clearly than most politicians do. The effects do not stop at boardrooms. They hit tax systems, consumer spending, and housing. If office wages fall or disappear, income tax collection weakens at the exact moment governments still need money for infrastructure, healthcare, education, and debt service. At the same time, salaried workers are also consumers. They rent apartments, buy services, eat out, travel, subscribe, commute, and spend across entire city economies. If a large share of that income is replaced by lower headcount or lower wages, the demand side softens. That matters because many modern cities are built around office density. Restaurants, transport, retail, business districts, and rental markets all depend on daily human traffic. When that traffic shrinks, the city does not explode. It thins out. You see fewer packed trains, fewer lunch crowds. More empty desks, more cautious hiring, more pressure on property values. The change is gradual, but it reaches far beyond technology. It reaches into how urban economies breathe. There is also a political problem that almost nobody wants to discuss directly. Productivity can rise while broad prosperity does not. That is one of the most dangerous transitions in modern economics. A small group of firms, owners, and highly adapted workers captures a large share of the upside while everyone else faces more instability and less certainty. Governments then get squeezed between bad options. They can regulate too slowly and watch the labor market unravel. They can tax automation aggressively and risk slowing investment. They can subsidize retraining, but retraining only works when there are real jobs at the end of it. And if there are not enough new human roles, then the old social contract starts to break. For decades, the promise was simple: study, work, specialize, and you can build a stable life in the middle class. AI threatens that promise not by eliminating all value, but by making the old path much narrower. If you want more videos that connect AI, money, and global power without the hype, make sure you are following this channel. The next few years will reward people who understand the system before it changes. So what does the next decade actually look like? Not a clean victory for machines and not a clean collapse of human work. More likely, we get a layered economy. Some sectors become dramatically more efficient. Some companies become far more profitable. A smaller number of workers become incredibly valuable because they can direct, verify, or specialize around AI systems. But a much larger group gets pushed into more competitive, less secure, and often lower-paid roles. That creates a new divide inside countries and between them. Places that move early may preserve more leverage. Places that move slowly may become dependent on imported productivity. The winners will not simply be the richest countries. They will be the countries that combine infrastructure, talent, capital, and speed. And the losers will not only be the poorest. They will be the economies that assume the old job structure will survive long enough to protect them. That assumption could be expensive. This is why the story matters far beyond office culture. If AI becomes the main force behind white-collar productivity, then every government, every company, and every household has to rethink the same questions. How do you tax value when fewer people earn traditional salaries? How do you train workers for roles that are changing every year? How do you prevent a productivity boom from turning into a social fracture? And how do countries compete when the most valuable assets are no longer factories or office towers, but models, chips, data, energy, and trust? In that world, power shifts toward whoever can build, deploy, and control the systems that do the work. The real contest is not human versus machine. It is who owns the machine layer of the economy. That is the system shift hidden inside this entire decade. So when people ask whether AI will take jobs, the better question is this: which societies will adapt fast enough to keep prosperity broad and which will let the gains concentrate in too few hands? Because if the transition is managed well, AI could raise productivity in ways that were impossible before. But if it moves faster than institutions can respond, the result is not just efficiency. It is instability, weaker wages, and a global race to control the tools that produce value. If you want more analysis like this, subscribe, follow the channel, like the video, and leave a comment telling me which country you think is most exposed to AI-driven job compression. Your answer says a lot about how you see the next decade. Because the future of work will not arrive with a single announcement. It will arrive one task, one team, and one budget at a time. And by the time most people notice the system has shifted, the winners will already be moving.